The Texans have a target on their back, but their offense isn't getting enough respect, and neither is the AFC South as a whole, plus CJ Stroud taking care of the kids this week. It's all coming your way here on the Saturday Texans Rundown, brought to you by Platinum AC and Heating, taking care of all of your air conditioner needs. Let's get into it. Let's get started with the target on the Texans' back. Tank Dell talking about it in the past week about how, hey, they know in Houston, there's a target on the Texans' back. It's different than last year when there were really low expectations for the Texans. Most people believed they were going to be the third or fourth best team in the division. Obviously, we all know they ended up as the AFC South champions. They had one of the best rookie quarterback seasons ever from CJ Stroud. Will Anderson was the defensive rookie of the year. D'Amico Ryans probably should have been coach of the year, on and on and on. All the fantastic stuff that happened last year for the Texans. Plus, this incredible offseason where they added the likes of Danielle Hunter and Joe Mixon and Stefon Diggs and everything that they've done to shore up this team both offensively and defensively. Everybody knows the Texans, they're in everyone's sights. They're not sneaking up on anybody in 2024 like they did a handful of times in 2023. So as much as I know the targets on the Texans' back, that's not really what I want to talk about, because with the target being on a team's back, it means you're getting everybody's best shot. So how many times did that feel like in 2023 they didn't get the team's best shot because that team was overestimating their future opponents and underestimating the Texans, or just flat out overlooking the Texans? And I can think of 4 instances last season when the Texans were overlooked, underestimated, and they actually came in a row to start the season and then later in the middle of the season. It starts with week 3 in Jacksonville. The Texans coming off of 2 losses. The defense didn't look good in the second one. The offense didn't look as good in the first one. And it was 2 losses going on the road to Jacksonville. The Jaguars, with the T and the little monocle, thought that they were going to be the class of the AFC South. And what do the Texans do? They come in there. It's a Tank Dell coming out party, and they smash the Jaguars. And really, when Jacksonville got close, a couple of things went the Texans' way. They were able to extend that thing out and take care of business in the second half. Jacksonville was overestimating what they were, underestimating the Texans. That's not going to happen at any point in 2024, and it didn't happen the second time the Jaguars played the Texans. We all know how that one shook out. Week 4, the very next week, against Pittsburgh. The Steelers came in, and this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a heritage franchise. They got a really good defense. They thought they had their guy at quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and surely what the Texans did the previous week, that was a fluke, right? They weren't going to do that against the big, bad Pittsburgh Steelers, and the terrible towels were used to clean up the sadness and the tears of Pittsburgh fans that invaded NRG Stadium on that Sunday. So week 3, week 4, and then week 6 against the Saints. You had the big success against Pittsburgh. You have the disappointing performance against Atlanta. And again, it felt like the Saints coming in with a veteran quarterback in Derek Carr, with a defensive-minded head coach who was highly touted and well-respected around the league. Oh, they're going to have a hard time moving the football against the Saints. There's a little bit there. The Saints offense can move the ball against them, because if Atlanta can do it, New Orleans can do it. And it just didn't look very good for New Orleans. The offense did enough. It wasn't incredible. CJ Stroud bounced back from that first interception, in large part thanks to Nico Collins forcing a fumble after that first interception. But the Saints came into town, it felt like, underestimating the Houston Texans. And then the other one that happened in the schedule, the fourth one that I felt like a team really didn't give the Texans their due coming into the matchup. And it wasn't really about the Texans as much as it was about where the Texans were in that team's schedule. And that was Cincinnati in week 10. The Bengals had just come off a defeating the Buffalo Bills, taking care of business there in a close one. And then they had the Baltimore Ravens coming up the next week. The Texans were sandwiched in between 2 huge AFC matchups, and one of them a divisional matchup for the Bengals. And it just kind of felt like slow start to the game for the Bengals defense and Joe Burrow. Burrow got going a little bit later on, but the slow start that allowed the Texans to kind of get some things going early on, get a lead, able to keep that lead for most of the game, and then ultimately win it on the field goal in the closing moments. It felt like the Bengals just didn't give the Texans their due. I don't believe that's going to happen at all in the 2024 season. Maybe you catch a team in a weird part of their schedule where that Texans game doesn't matter as much as like a divisional game or something like that. But the target on the Texans' back makes sure that 4 things that happened in 2023 not happening in 2024. You know what else is not happening? It feels like the proper amount of respect for the Texans offense. Well, maybe it is the proper amount of respect. Let's go through it and talk about it a little bit. This was a Pro Football Focus top 10 receiving core list that they tweeted out this week, and the Texans checked in at 5, and that's a very respectable spot to be in for the Houston Texans. But when you looked at it, you just started thinking receiving core, you're like, well, hold on. The Texans' 3 dudes is better than just about everybody on this list, right? The top 3 wide receivers for the Texans, they're better than what the Bears are putting together, the Eagles or the Dolphins or the 49ers. But you look at the bottom of the graphic and you notice and you see running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So it wasn't necessarily the receiving core as much as it was the pass catchers here. And when you start thinking about the pass catchers as a whole, as a total group, the Texans are actually perfectly ranked. It feels to me. Yeah, perfectly ranked. I like what San Francisco's got. Obviously, they've got George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and then Christian McCaffrey as one of the most impressive and dynamic offensive weapons in all of football. San Fran makes sense. Miami makes sense. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, a bevy of running back options. That's where Miami checks in ahead of the Texans, even though I don't love their wide receiver core player for player as much as the Texans wide receiver core. They've got a ton more running backs than the Texans do. And they just got more options in toting the rock, catching the ball out of the backfield than what the Texans have. They have some absolutely dynamic and explosive dudes back there. Just the Texans go 1 deep with Joe Mixon. The Dolphins go at least 3 deep, maybe 4 deep with their running back room. That has them checking in ahead. Philadelphia, well, we know about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We also know that Dallas Goedert is a really nice tight end in football. And then Saquon Barkley catching the ball out of the backfield at the running back spot. We know the Texans thought Barkley was better than Joe Mixon at some point because they chased Saquon Barkley, tried to get him in free agency. Ultimately, he ends up in Philadelphia. So I'm not having a hard time putting the Eagles ahead of the Houston Texans when you factor in tight ends and wide receivers and running backs. And then the Bears one, that one's a little iffy. Okay, that one's a little iffy. It's a little bit questionable, but I can still see it. Cole Kmet had better stats last year at tight end than Dalton Schultz did, so that gives them the tight end advantage. They've got 3 worthwhile options. I don't like their top 3 wide receiver options as much as I like what the Texans have at wide receiver, but at running back, when you look at the running back room that the Bears have, they go 3 deep. The Texans, again, only go 1 deep. They signed DeAndre Swift in free agency. They already had Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson. So you kind of see how the Bears check in ahead of the Houston Texans. So 5 on the list. It's kind of perfect, actually. It checks in right there. I'm looking at the rest of the list, and yeah, I can't put the Vikings ahead of the Texans. Don't know what their running back situation is. The Lions, maybe if they had more wide receiver help. The Rams, if I felt better about their tight end situation. Same with the Bengals. And then the Seahawks, it's all just kind of a level below where the Texans are. So that top 10 receiving core, which kind of should have been the pass catcher situation, that checks in at okay. I give it a thumbs up. It makes sense. I know initially when you see it and you just think top 3 wide receivers, you're like, Texans too low. When you factor in the running backs, tight ends, Texans kind of spot on. All right, I want to take a minute for my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. 5-star rated by the Better Business Bureau. 5-star rated on Google and Yelp. Dwyane at Platinum AC and Heating has decades of experience taking care of air conditioners just like yours. He's a Texans fan, just like you, and he doesn't like to be hot, just like you don't like to be hot. So from repairs to replacements to that little tune-up, making sure that your AC is blowing as cold as possible and not working too hard, costing you money by unnecessarily running because it is working too hard. The tune-up can help avoid all of that. Platinum AC and Heating will take care of you. Again, the best service and best prices in town with Platinum AC and Heating. Put the number in your phone, 832-777-3683, 36-83. Dwyane's not going to let you sit in a hot house. And you know what? When he fixes it up, it's not going to cost you a bunch of cold, hard cash either, because you get the best prices in town with Platinum AC and heating. Texans too low. When you factor in the running backs, tight ends, Texans kind of spot on. You know what's not spot on, though? The disrespect to the AFC South quarterbacks. My guy Eric at home wrote at NFL.com this week a ranking of the divisions according to the quarterback talent in the division. Okay, and you think about what the AFC South has. They have the reigning defending offensive rookie of the year in CJ Stroud. They have one of the highest paid quarterbacks in all of football in Trevor Lawrence. They have Will Levis, who has potential. You know, he's a guy that the Titans are giving the reins to this year. He's had some really impressive moments in the NFL up to this point. And Anthony Richardson, when he was healthy and when he played, was pretty dynamic and pretty exciting when it came to the quarterback spot. So that's the four quarterbacks in the AFC South. And I was thinking, as I saw the list, I thought to myself, third or fourth at worst is where you're going to put this division. Okay, third or fourth at worst. Well, let's take a look at Eric's list over here at NFL.com, and no arguments with the AFC North being at the top. 2 MVP candidates in Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Deshaun Watson, if he bounces back, he's an impressive player. Even if he's the fourth worst quarterback in your division, or the fourth best, quarterback in your division, that's still pretty impressive from that standpoint. So, you know, not freaking out too much about this. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields doesn't feel great for the Steelers, but that's better than a lot of teams' fourth. So AFC North, I'm good with it. NFC West, more established guys you believe in a lot more than the AFC South. 2 guys that don't have a lot of belief in them, and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, even though if Richardson's healthy, he's going to be pretty darn good, it seems. He just hasn't stayed healthy, basically, ever. Kyler Murray's dynamic. Matthew Stafford's obviously really, really good and a potential Hall of Famer. Brock Purdy was fantastic last year. And then Geno Smith has a really high floor, even if the ceiling is not that high. So that's the NFC West. And I was thinking, surely AFC South's coming up next. Based on the way he's valued these things, the AFC South's coming up next. And then I saw the AFC West. And I was like, what? Really? The AFC West? Like, don't get me wrong. Mahomes and Herbert can carry this whole division to a big conversation about them being one of the better divisions in all of football. Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. Herbert's one of the more talented guys with still some untapped potential. But Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Jarrett Stidham, and Bo Nix get the AFC West in the conversation. The list is quickly going off the rails. So I thought, okay, AFC West, surely up next is the AFC South. No, there's the AFC East, which I would have put ahead of the AFC West because Allen's an MVP candidate. Tua is a threat to have some of the best passing stats in all of football. Brissett May is an intriguing veteran rookie combo, more so than what the Broncos had. And then Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, sure, he might be really good. He might have the ability to capture some of that stuff from his Green Bay days. But, you know, he's not healthy right now. So I'd put the AFC East ahead of the AFC West, and I probably would put the AFC South ahead of the AFC East. So surely the AFC – nope, there's the NFC East with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Jaden Daniels, and Marcus Mariota. Yeah, I don't get it. Well, then sure it's AFC – no, there's the NFC North with 2 rookies in Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy. And McCarthy doesn't play at Sam Darnold. Love and Goff are fine players, are really solid players, actually. But you know, is there superstar potential to either of those guys? I don't think so. And then finally, we get the AFC South. Like, what? Are we kidding me? CJ Stroud, the offensive rookie of the year. Anthony Richardson, who is dynamic when he plays. Trevor Lawrence, the former chosen one. And Will Levis, who's had some moments and played football, unlike some of these rookies that are on this list. The AFC South checked in at 7th? I don't think so. I don't like that. My list would go with the AFC North at the top. I would put them at the top. I just feel like Lamar and Burrow, Watson as the 4th guy. I'd put the AFC North at the top. I actually agree with the NFC West because they're more established than some of the AFC South teams. And then I'd put the AFC South right there below the NFC West and the AFC North. I mean, the AFC South's got some incredible quarterback talent. Obviously, there's some ifs if Will Levis is any good, if Anthony Richardson stays healthy. But Lawrence should bounce back. Stroud should be better than last year. What are we doing? What are we doing? Come on now. Come on now. What are you doing sitting in a hot house? Don't sit in a hot house. Call my friends at Platinum AC and Heating today. 832-777-3683 is the number. Dwyane will take care of you. He will not let you sit in a hot house, from repairs to maintenance to upkeep to full-on replacement. The best prices and the best service in town is with my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. Give Dwyane a call today. Let's finish up the rundown with something that I felt was really, really cool that C.J. Stroud did at his football camp. He had his football camp this week, ton of people there, a lot of his teammates there. Saw Dell in some of the videos and pictures from it. Terrell Owens was there. We talked about that on the channel earlier this week. If you missed that video, check it out here on the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss anything. But I thought this was a really cool moment from C.J. Stroud. Aaron Wilson captured it from his Twitter account. This is C.J. Stroud as the camp is kind of getting going, getting started, it looks like. And he has the kids turn around and say thank you to their parents that brought him. Listen to this.
3. Just parents, thank you for bringing y'all kids out. Kids, thank you for coming. These type of camps as a kid, made me a better player to get where I'm at now. First and foremost, man, I just give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to have this opportunity. And for me, he's my everything, and I encourage everybody out here, to step into that faith and lean into your faith. And on top of that, hard work, that comes out to just success. And, I hope everybody out here learns something, kids and parents,
The second annual camp in Houston was a cool message. I like what C.J. Stroud did there. Thank the parents, because those kids don't drive themselves. It's something I used to hear my Little League baseball coaches talk about in the first couple of practices. Like, hey, these kids don't drive themselves. They can't get to practice on time. It's up to the parents. We need you. When I helped out coaching a Little League team, we drafted kind of parents, really guys that we knew were reliable, would come to practice every week, encouraging, didn't want to step on the coaches' feet and things like that. Parents are so important. Obviously, my mom took me to a ton of camps and travel baseball and getting me to wrestling practices and wrestling tournaments and stuff like that. So if your parents helped you out a ton in your youth, getting you some of those youth sports experiences, go tell them a thank you today. Here, just hit them on a random Saturday. Be like, hey, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, neighbor, whoever. Hey, thanks for taking me to all those camps or the practices or the weekend practices or the early morning practices or anything like that. Thanks for all of that because I really appreciate it because I couldn't have got there myself. I like that message from C.J. Stroud. And, man, he just seems like a great human being each and every time you see him. And I know those kids were thrilled to be at the C.J. Stroud football camp. I'm thrilled that you watched the video today. Appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. Repairs, replacements, tuning up your AC so it's in the best shape for summer. Dwyane at Platinum AC and Heating does it all. 832-777-3683 is the number. Put that number in your phone. Okay, you may not need it now. You may not need the AC tune-up, but when you need something from an AC guy, you need the AC guy, and that's my guy Dwyane at Platinum AC and Heating. He will take care of you, and as I always say, Dwyane's not going to let you sit in a hot house. And when he's out there helping out, fixing up the AC, when you're done, talk a little Texans with him. He's a Texans fan, just like you are. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.